Hello and welcome to this COMP3218 game design and development video from the University of Southampton. My name is Tom Blount. I'm one of the lecturers on the course and I'm joined today by...
Hi, I'm Dan. I'm one of the demonstrators on the course.
Excellent. So in this video, we're going to be looking at another set of our students' second courseworks. If you're this far into the series, I'm sure you know the drill by now. But Dan, could you tell us what we asked the students to do for this coursework?
Yeah, like we said before, this is a coursework about interactive narratives. So we want a story engine that allows some sort of game world gameplay aspect to interact with the narrative story and vice versa. Something that's happening in a story is going to affect the gameplay.
Brilliant. Well, without further ado, let's jump right into it. All right, and our first game is Villagers Asked for a Scientist.
Okay.
Nice title screen. Got some nice background art, got lovely font, and we've got a controls page.
And perhaps even a scientist.
Okay. So I'm glad that they have included all of these controls. They've maybe skipped over some of the lessons they learned in coursework 1 about, gradually covering this within the gameplay, but let's have a look at what we've got. So E to interact with stuff, left click to proceed to dialogue. Don't know why they're separate controls, but okay. Collect resources by left clicking at the acceptable region. If you aim at the larger acceptable region, you only get half of the resources. Okay, that's good to know. I would have assumed from that thing that green is good and that orange is bad, but it looks like orange is hit the tree in the middle, yellow is we'll get half resources if we get the sides, green is we've missed.
Orange might be you hit the trunk, green is the tree is still a tree.
We hit some grass next to the tree, yeah.
Yeah.
And then A and D in space, and O to attack and P to attack on the right. Okay, interesting control scheme.
So you can attack left and attack right, so you can attack as you're running away and things. It does mean you need 3 hands because you've got A and D to move, O and P to attack, and your third hand on the mouse to click on dialogue. But
yeah, hopefully we don't have to do all of them at the same time, but let's hop in. This is a medieval village. Unlike other villages who are experiencing economic and cultural decline, this village is full of natural resources and all the villagers have a peaceful life. Brilliant. Job done. We can go home now.
Wonderful.
We're the villagers' leader. We've been doing a fantastic job so far. Talk to the villagers to get insight into the village. So we've got some happiness,
goes wrong, it's
sanity.
entirely on you.
Yeah, if everything goes wrong, it's all my fault. Happiness, sanity, and resources up here. Got a to-do list that's empty at the minute, and that's a nice little animation. I think there's an invisible wall over here, so we can't go that way. So let's go this way.
E is the interact.
Oh yeah, I was just looking at I'm not sure what that is that says work on it. Is it a sculpture? Is it a mine? How are you feeling today? Oh, that's right, I've got to click to proceed. Villager 1, I'm great. Everything's good. Crops are growing. Villagers satisfied. Talking and listening to villagers' requests is how you increase the villagers' happiness. What do you think this is?
I think it's a pile of trees and rocks.
Oh, this is our resource pile, you think?
Yeah.
Oh, and here's another one over here. We've got 0 resources. Oh, well, I'm sure it'll be explained in due course. How are you feeling? I've just made some bread. Do you want to try some? I would love some bread. So, everyone. I'm getting the unsettling sensation of, in an RPG when everything is lovely and great.
Everything's too lovely.
And then either there's some sort of horrible false hydra, or everything is about to get set on fire to motivate us on our quest. I'm planning to expand
working for the greater good.
Ooh, 10 piglets. And how are you feeling today? Need to go to the church to set up a wedding. I'm also 2 days away from retirement, and
Yep.
Fantastic. Buy some milk. Interesting. I don't know which one Theo is, because all of the villagers are named Villager 1, Villager 2, Villager 3, and Villager 4. Ooh. That was a very quick go to sleep. A stranger. Ooh. Is this our eponymous scientist? I am a scientist. My village has been destroyed and now I am homeless. Can you offer shelter? No, go away. Game over. Let's say yes to start with, and then we'll see what happens. There's an empty hut over there. Make yourself at home. It's been a week since the scientist joined. He seems to be getting along with the other villagers. Happiness has gone down. Let's check what's wrong. The scientist mentioned he had huge towers in his previous village. He said it's a basic requirement in a village. Okay, clearly we need a... I kind of like that. It's like,
Yeah.
well, apparently everyone needs giant towers, so we've got to have some of those. The cow damaged the fence. Can we fix it? Oh, and now we've got a to-do list, so we need 1 tower, 42 resources. Villager 2's fences, 10 resources. We don't have any resources still, so we're going to have to figure out how to get resources. We need towers, so yep, you also want towers. And what do you want? You've got another hole in your roof.
I like that the sprite, I think, either changed to having a hole in the roof or just always had a hole in the roof.
I think that has changed.
Yeah.
You also want towers. Go to the forest, collect resources. Aha! Do you want to start resource level? Yes. Oh, okay. This is not what I was expecting.
So now we have a platformer and some things to fight.
Now, I was expecting this to be a lot more resource management than...
Be aware you do have a timer that's dropping from about 100 seconds to complete your collection.
I'm having... You were quite right that I'm having to switch hands quite often to attack and chop trees. So we are kind of having to do stuff at once. So the controls maybe a little bit awkward. And
I don't think we learned whether or not you're supposed to be out of the forest in 73 seconds, or you just are automatically sent home.
Yeah, my assumption was I'd be automatically sent home, but you're right. Also, do we have health?
Not that I'm aware of. Are you losing time faster? I think you might be losing time faster.
Oh, okay. Because there were definitely some noises. Oh.
Oh.
Okay.
You ran out of time. So you do have to be out of the forest before the timer runs out.
Okay, so there are some consequences to fall off the ledge.
Yeah. And maybe we missed a slight narrative thing where these ghosts become like mega ghosts at night, and this is 93 seconds until nightfall.
Yeah, a little bit contrived maybe, but it still sort of works. Get those.
It makes sense to have a timer, so we'll figure out what we can do in 70 seconds and then leg it back home.
I think we've got all the trees. I think we might even have gotten all the resources we could get. That's another invisible wall. I don't know if am I incentivized to kill these things, or can I just run away from them?
I didn't spot any benefit of killing them.
Is there anything here extra? No, I think that was everything. All right, let's go back. Ooh, the timer keeps going as this dialogue's here.
Ah!
Don't like that. The timer is still going.
So let's hope that we don't just lose in.
Yeah, let's quickly fix this. Fix this. Oh, I don't know what triggered. Did the timer run out, or did I just...
No, the timer was on 10 seconds or so. So I think you had done some to-do list things, was what triggered it?
Yeah, I guess, could I have afforded a tower? But I couldn't have afforded a tower and the other thing. So maybe it just went, well, there is nothing else to spend resources on. The day ends. Villager 1. What is wrong with you? All of you want a tower, and you're using the resources for useless things like fixing people's houses.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's 3 against 3 against 2. So happiness has plummeted now. So I guess we really do need to build them a tower. Oh, now you want statues. We need 56 resources. Alright, you also want statues. Please do your job. As everyone knows, the job of the leader is to build statues.
Yep.
You've got another hole in your roof.
I'm kind of intrigued to see whether the statues look like the scientist, like us, or like something else.
Oh, I hope they look like me. Okay.
180 seconds. Is that the same? I think that's the same as last time.
I think the whatchamacallums, the little mini games are getting, the axe is moving a lot faster than it was previously.
Okay.
I think the orange bit is also getting a lot. Gotta swap hands again. It's getting a lot more. Perhaps. Okay, maybe I am gonna have to kill some of these ghosts. Right, is there? Have I missed any trees? I think that's all of them. So I think we've got as many resources as we could possibly make, and we. Oh no, there's one more. So I do have enough for a statue. All right, let's get out while the getting is good.
Yep. It's interesting that the camera locks you to the left of the screen, even though sometimes you're running left and sometimes running right.
Yes. We'll talk about that when we get to the information design, which we can probably do in a moment. But for now, let's build a statue.
Yeah, you're still on timer, so I won't distract you.
Oh, 28 for one statue. Oh, he means two statues. Ooh. I'm going to pretend that's me. Okay, so we spent all of our resources. Seems like you finally know what we need. Still. Okay. They're all really disappointed. Happiness is now 17 and sanity. We should stop listening to these people. They all want the scientist to be the new leader.
I feel like, go on then, scientist.
Yep,
see if you can do a better job.
We are exiled from the village. The scientist is the new leader. Everyone is poisoned.
Looks cool. Yeah.
Cool. That's I mean, it's certainly a story. It's maybe a little bit anticlimactic's not the right word. It was definitely a climax.
It felt compressed, but that's reasonable for a short game prototype. I guess we're going to run through some different routes on this playthrough and see what other kinds of endings we can find.
Just keep ignoring the... No, I was wondering, can I start stockpiling resources to appease these grumpy villagers? But it doesn't look like it. It looks like I do have to talk to everyone before we can proceed to the next day. So that's, managing players' agency a little.
Mm-hmm.
So let's skip through that. I should have sent him away.
Oh yeah, we'll try that one.
I tell you what, let's cater to their stupid whims and build some towers, and then we'll. So again, this is another game where we've got like quite a separation between story and game. We've got the story area where we're talking to people, and then we've got and now you're in the platforming section. There is definitely some link between the two, obviously, because the resources are important in both. But let's see if we can get as many resources as possible. And while I'm failing at this, shall we start talking about the mark scheme?
Yeah, absolutely. So, in the category of graphics, audio, and information design, I think the graphics are very nice. I would certainly call them appealing, maybe professional and appealing.
Yeah, I think so. Same with the audio. We've got some nice music. We've got some sound effects. So every time we move or hit a tree, that all works quite nicely. I'm a little concerned isn't the right word. I'm a little bit more nitpicky about some of their information design though. So
yeah,
like you mentioned with the camera, it not being. There we go. I think that's everything.
We've seen a few invisible walls, which would have been nicer if they were just, fences or something where it looked like you'd get stopped.
So, yeah, exactly. And the fact that the timer's still going is a bit confusing as well. It's interesting that we've... so I'm pretty sure I nailed all of those mini-games, and it's only just given us 42 resources, which is the exact amount we need. So if I had missed a single one of those, we wouldn't be able to get this path of the story.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know whether that was intentional choice or not.
So you're sad. Oh, you're also sad because the tower's not good enough. So this is interesting because we have choices. I don't. I was about to ask you if you feel like we've got agency, which is difficult to judge because you're not in the driving seat. But what do you think?
I think that. I mean, I've also read their notes, so I know roughly where this goes. But I would say that we're definitely making some choices, and I think those choices do impact the game, so they feel like meaningful decisions.
See, that's the thing. I mean, they definitely do impact the story, but like at a sort of visceral level, I don't feel like my choices are having an impact because they're all complaining no matter what I do.
Oh, yes, it is true that no matter what you do, they'll be sad about A or sad about B.
And even if I try and pander to the majority,
you're expecting to find a good ending, and there might not be one.
Yeah, which I mean, I guess is fine, right? Not every story has to have a happy ending or anything like that, but does it feel like a satisfying ending? How do I get up to that tree over there?
I guess we'll play through a few more endings and see when we've seen all the things that this game can do. Yeah, so overall on presentation, where are we landing?
So, I think you're right that graphics and audio are kind of up there in maybe partway between professional and appealing. The information design, though, I think probably brings it down a little bit, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So the question becomes: does it bring it down to professional, or does it bring it down to just below it?
I think my small nitpick is stuff like this white font on a really pale background. I don't know if that's enough to drag it down into that slightly lower. It's readable, but it's just about.
It shows up better when it's not being streamed via Teams, but I think the main issue is things like the camera, like you say, where there's stuff that you can't see. Oh, I don't have enough to build the statue. I must have messed up one of those mini games. So again, that thing about sort of agency. I know I have, like, it's a test of reactions, if you like, but and then stuff like this. Well, I guess this isn't a problem with information design so much as a bug in the gameplay.
Yeah, I mean, it might be intentional behavior that you've got 180 seconds to get all your resources and spend them, but I'm not. It would be information design if that was the intention, because we weren't told that.
But I only had 8 left, and that wasn't enough to spend on anything.
Yes, okay, then you're just stuck.
Unless, I can run back home and then what's the word? Just go to bed or something. Okay, I think. Sorry, I'm trying to perfect all of these mini games so we can see this other branch, but also comment on the marks criteria at the same time, and swap hands to defeat these horrible goblin things.
Lots of multitasking.
I think it probably lands on professional. Like, mostly the information design is fine. We've got the to-do list. We've got the nice, clear, of like what's interactable and what's not. I think it's more a case of there are perhaps some bugs in the timer rather than the timer being I don't think it's the timer is being deliberately confusing. I think it's a bug that it is still running.
Yeah, I agree.
So we'll talk about that in a second. I think it probably overall lands on professional.
Wonderful. So, mechanics, controls, and bugs then.
Okay, so the gameplay is interesting. It is a departure from what I was expecting. But as far as just as a platformer goes, yeah, it's fine. It's. I think we have run into another fairly major bug, unfortunately.
Have you turned invisible, or have you disappeared, or both?
I think, yeah, we kind of sequence broke it. So let me close that, and we'll just reopen it again. And while we're doing that, I will look up the mark scheme again. So that's probably a pretty serious bug. As far as the gameplay goes, what mechanics have we got to work with? So we've got the platforming, we've got the mini game, we've got the in the story segment, we've got talking to villagers and distributing those resources. It's not massively complex, but it's fine. It works together. As you say, we've got the combat as well. All right, what happens if I go away? Still don't want him to go. Oh, so on the one hand, problematic agency, but on the other hand, managed agency.
Yeah.
The narrative.
I was kind of imagining if we did this twice or something, it would just go game over. No story happens.
Like it would be. This would be more funny if every time you said no, you got like a different reason or something like that.
Yeah.
This feels like a little bit cheap. Like false agency is one thing, but false agency only works as long as the player believes they have agency. As soon as they're just like, as soon as you give them a choice that they know is utterly meaningless, it doesn't really work, because now it's like you've presented a choice, but it's not a choice.
It actually maybe makes you suspicious of all the other choices being potentially irrelevant as well.
Yeah, but we'll come back to that. Gameplay, yeah, so we've got not a huge amount of mechanics. Like to me, they do feel like a little bit disjoint, right? And so the fact that we've got the mini game of test your reactions combined with the platforming, combined with also having to do that under a timer, combined with the fact that the control scheme is actually quite awkward. So that you have to click for the mini game and then very quickly swap your hand over to the keyboard to do the combat, and then quickly swap back again while under this time pressure, makes it actually quite challenging. So I feel like this actually overall sits at a pass level.
I think I would agree. I would say that there are a reasonable number of mechanics. They're not so well integrated. The controls here and the bugs here are the things that are dragging this down a bit. I thought, little bits like the jump seemed particularly floaty, which isn't necessarily a problem, but when you're trying to be precise about things, might struggle a bit. But in particular, the fact you need 3 hands and that it's under a time limit, so it's not merely that it's inconvenient to move your hand around, but it actually is a hindrance to the gameplay there.
Yeah, agreed. But onto the story engine. Ooh, this is a tricky one. Also, just actually, while we talk about mechanics, the balance as well, right? The fact that, well, maybe this comes under agency, but the fact that you need to perfectly get every single minigame in order to actually be able to make the choices they give you.
Yeah, there probably should be a 10 or 15% buffer on skipping a tree or getting one of the trees wrong. So you've still got the ability to make those choices. One thing that is interesting, you had mentioned it seems to get easier and harder. Sometimes the bars that you're targeting are bigger, sometimes they're smaller. That's actually triggered by the game state. Have you managed to correlate that?
So it looked like the first level is easier than the second level, is all I can say about that. I don't know if there's anything else underlying it.
In their notes, they say it depends on the village happiness, which of course starts at 100, which is what makes it easy in the first level. But that's why it gets harder over time, because the happiness is going down, and so the mini games are getting harder. There's not a clear narrative link for why the people being unhappy makes chopping trees down harder, but it does work mechanically as quite a good link.
Well, maybe, I don't know if I'm just bad at this game, but I feel like happiness is always going down, right? And now that I think about it, what is sanity? Going back to the information design, what does sanity do?
Is it sanity of you or sanity of the people, given that happiness is happiness of the people? So if the sanity is the sanity of the people, it's when it gets to 0, they always overthrow you, but we don't know what changes the sanity? Seems to be the same thing as happiness.
Does sanity change at all ever, though?
Not that I've yet noticed, but I'll keep an eye on it.
Have they? Okay, so they have handed in some game notes, and they have shown the branches, but they haven't really shown...
There's endings that happen at 0% sanity, but I haven't figured out what causes that. Running into the monsters maybe drives you insane?
Oh, maybe. Oh, maybe?
I mean, it did seem to lose you time, which was what I thought the downside of the monsters was.
Yeah, I've also spent all of our resources... Oh, no, there we go. There was a person I missed talking to. So you all want statues, you all want stuff fixed. Let me just bump into... Nope, sanity is not affected by bumping into monsters.
Okay, I'll keep a lookout for other things that might do it.
Unless it is affected by bumping into monsters and it's just not appearing on the screen. That's enough, let's go. Yeah, so back to the story engine, and we'll untangle this web later. So first thing we're looking at is does the game world affect the story? And then we'll look at does the story affect the game? So does the game affect the story?
So the gameplay here is chopping down trees, and the story is making things that requires you to have chopped down the trees.
Choosing what to spend it on, basically. Which, so on the one hand, I complained that, there's this pretty hard detachment between the game and the story bits of the game. It does make marking this bit a lot easier. So really what we've got is...
If you don't play the mini-games perfectly, story elements are locked off. That doesn't feel that great, but it is a very clear example of the game world impacting the story.
Yeah.
I think the version is that if you had to... if you got your mini-games worse, you had to spend more time in the forest, you'd have to try a bit harder, or you'd have to go searching a bit further to find some more trees to chop down. But either way round, it's clear that how you do the getting trees bit is going to impact where the story can go.
Nope.
Okay. We have a new ending.
It's burned our house down.
Ending. Right. What triggered the everything's on fire ending?
So I fixed all of the houses and I didn't build any ridiculous monuments. So they burn the house. They burn us alive, and then build a tower, and then it falls down and kills everyone.
Okay.
So how many endings have we got? Because we've got build. Effectively, we've got build statues and towers. We've got build statues, or build towers, or build neither.
Yeah. So we found 2 of 4. We had the one where the villagers have no happiness but sanity, and the result is they kill you. And we also found
the sanity didn't change. The sanity was still 100.
So
and it also all of their endings are labelled as bad ending.
The first ending we got is marked in their notes as 0% happiness and greater than 0% sanity. But I think that's distinct from 100% sanity. This is what you get if you do some building and then fixing, or some fixing and then building. And this results in the exile. There's a third ending for 0% sanity that we haven't been able to trigger yet.
Okay, if we build ridiculous stuff that they like, maybe that lowers their sanity.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, just build and build and build will make you go insane. Or make them go insane.
Alright, we'll see if we avoid that bug and see whether we get a good ending. I feel like having a village full of insane people is not a good ending.
Yeah.
Alright, so as far as gameplay affecting the story, there is kind of one effect, and it is how good you are at doing the mini game. which is a bit of a shame because it's not to do with any of the players' choices. It's just it's punishing the player for having bad reactions. Effectively, if you aren't good enough to perfectly complete all of the mini games, then you don't get to choose what happens in the story.
Yeah, and so this is maybe another reason that having 10 or 15% spare trees is a good idea here, because it means that it's not actually did the player play well, it's did the player do enough of the repetitive thing to be in a position where they can make the choice. Like, they always get the choice, but sometimes it takes them a little while.
Okay, sanity has now gone down because we built a... So these meters are not actually really doing anything, right? They're effectively flags of just... Did you go down this branch or this branch?
Yeah, they count how many times you build vanity projects compared to how many times you build sensible things.
Okay, so how would we put a number on this? So there is really one way that it affects the story, and it's not based on the player's choices, but again, it just sort of punishes them for reactions. However, there is definitely an impact, as you say. I'm not convinced it is the best way they could have done it, but there is definitely an example of the gameplay having an impact on the outcome of the story. To me,
it feels like it's falling between a pass and a satisfactory. Pass says a few sparse or minor examples. I think we have slightly better than that. And satisfactory says some examples that do impact. We feel like we've got one that's reasonably solid.
I mean, to me, it feels like it's a pass. And honestly, that feels a little bit generous because we kind of have one example, and it's did you beat the mini games?
Yeah, I suppose it is. Each of the mini games is presenting the exact same thing. So really it is one.
Well, if you look at them because remember, you have to perfectly beat all of them.
Yeah.
So like taking that together, it's effectively one thing.
Yeah, actually, if you miss the first one, you don't get the opportunity to get it perfect on the second one.
Exactly.
Because you've already lost that ending.
So yeah, I mean, so here's the thing: they definitely have the game world impacting the story. I don't think it's necessarily the best way to have gone about it, but it is there, so I don't think it's any lower than the pass. So I think they do get that. Pass. Story to game world. What choices in the story do the choices we make in the story, which is effectively how we decide to distribute the resources, do they have an impact on the game? And in a way, so you were saying that the difficulty of this speeds up a bit because of the happiness.
Yeah.
Now, the happiness doesn't really seem related to the choices we make, because happiness goes down regardless. So it is kind of just over time the gameplay gets harder, which is a pretty limited impact on it, really. But again, it is...
They also say the player's sanity will affect the strength of enemies in the resource level, where players lose time if they are hit by the enemies. So the game always gets harder. It gets harder in different ways, either with the speed of your actions or your requirements to dodge the enemies. I think, I'm not sure here, that the amount that the happiness goes down is more or less depending on which branches you take. Like, you're either getting you lose lots of sanity and only a little bit of happiness, or lots of happiness and maybe a little bit of sanity or not losing sanity.
But I don't think it really has a meaningful impact on the gameplay.
I would call it probably a minor example. Few sparse or minor examples.
I think it maybe is a little bit below in this instance, just because of the... Again, it's severely limited in terms of, like, the player's not really making much of a choice about what is happening to the gameplay. It's just, it's always, sanity and happiness is always ticking down. Sanity sometimes ticks down. But because of the way the gameplay is arranged, it's kind of difficult to notice the impact as far as the monsters go. I wasn't aware that was happening until we checked the game notes. And the minigame's sort of getting harder over time. There isn't a lot that actually ties it to that choice that we made.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't feel like it's that the chopping down wood is getting harder for an obvious reason because of happiness going down. If it were, I don't know, some of the villagers came and helped you chop down the trees, and the fact that the happiness was going down meant fewer villagers came to help you, or they wouldn't give you the nice, pretty, shiny axe or something, so you have to use your bare fists, and that's why chopping down the trees is harder. There's scope there for the narrative to have a really obvious reason that it's affecting the gameplay here, and it's a little bit more tacked on, I suppose.
Okay, some of this dialogue is actually tickling me. This is quite funny. But yeah, so overall, it is definitely impacting the game world, but I don't think it's doing it sufficiently. However, it is definitely still there. So this feels like it's like just below a pass in this instance.
Yeah. Okay. I agree with that.
What about agency? Now this is interesting because they are deliberately. Well, I don't want to say deliberately subverting the player's agency, but they kind of are. Particularly, in fact, they definitely are with the choice in the beginning where it's like, do you want the scientist to come or not?
Yeah.
It's on the one hand, it's interesting that it's a deliberate choice to manage the agency and resolve that narrative paradox of, well, the scientist has to be there for the story to progress. But if he has to be there for the story to progress, it's a bold choice to really highlight that by saying it's a choice and then not giving the player a choice after all. Because like you say, that then can undermine the other choices that you give them. And kind of also the other choices that we're given don't matter. Something horrible is going to happen to us regardless.
Yes. I'm not necessarily so opposed to the idea that everything is always going to be terrible. You just get to decide which kind of terrible it is. It's an apples or oranges kind of decision rather than a will you win or will you lose kind of decision.
I suppose.
I think it perhaps comes more along the lines of pacing for whether or not the feeling of an inevitable decline will give you the kind of tension that we're looking for. But in terms of choices, I think the choices do exist, and maybe it doesn't feel great to know that you're going to die in one way or another.
I guess the question is, do you think the choices are interesting?
Yeah.
Is it interesting to... Also, the fact that this minigame is getting harder means I'm not going to be able to build these castles, I don't think. Oh, yeah. We've got a bunch of trees up here, maybe. But yeah, are they interesting choices? Like, and this is the kind of the thing. The first one is set up as... hang on, before I unpause the game, I'll try and finish my thought. The first one is, do you go for the whims of the majority on a vanity project, or do you go for something that will actually practically help people? But then, because they're miserable no matter what, it makes like the next choice feel exactly the same, and the next choice feel exactly the same, because they are the same choice, and they're going to have bad outcomes for you no matter what. Which, I mean, I guess is thematically right. My assumption here is they're going for the fable that they're basing this off of is the frogs after the king, and them never being satisfied with what's going on, which is kind of fine. I'm a bit sad I get punished for it. But
I think you're broadly the king here who's being asked for stuff, right? Like the villagers of the frogs who are always going to keep asking for more stuff.
But as you say, not all stories have to have a happy ending, and it's kind of fun for them to subvert that by making all of our villagers real grumpy about very minor things. But as far as agency goes, yeah, are they interesting choices?
For me, I would describe it as having one interesting choice presented many times. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but I don't think that each of the decisions you make really are distinct decisions. It's clearly each time you're doing the sensible thing or the vanity thing. And I think that decision is an interesting decision, but I think seeing that decision 3 times means we have one interesting decision 3 times rather than 3 interesting decisions.
And I was going to say, I don't know if we're actually going to get to see this because of the balance, but if, for example, we've got, if the choices just boil down to, well, do you want the bad ending, or the good ending, then they're definitely not interesting choices.
Mm.
I don't know if we'll get to see if the other one is a good ending or another bad ending, but it's definitely a hard, like, put it this way, right now we're on a level we haven't seen before because of what we were doing before. So the choice is, do you want an immediate bad ending, or do you want to see the rest of the game? Which I think, like you say, the core of it is kind of an interesting choice, but because of the repetition and sort of because of the game mechanics, it undermines it a bit. So a pass would be some choices, but only a few are interesting, and it feels like that's probably where we are, I think.
Yeah, that's where I was going to put it.
Okie doke. What is next? Pacing?
Yes.
So it's mechanically certainly getting harder because I can't get past this level, and story-wise, does it feel like things are amping up over time? To me, it nearly does, but part of it feels a little bit flat because again we're doing the same choice every day, and then we're suddenly burned alive if we've made the quote-unquote wrong choice.
Yeah. So for me, like, we often see these sort of games where you present the same decision multiple times. These can still have really great ascending pacing because you present the decision in a small scale, and then you present the same decision but at a slightly bigger scale, and then you present the same decision at a sort of even bigger scale. If the first one wasn't build a tower, but the first one was sort of, I don't know, paint a mural on the town hall, and the next one was build some statues, and the next one was build a huge tower, and then the next one on top of that was cover it in diamonds or something, then these things would clearly be escalating narratively, and that would drive ascending pacing in the narrative. But the fact that we start with build a huge tower feels like actually we're kind of going down in pacing or intention from there, because the statues seem less exciting than the tower, at least to me.
I agree. The castles are maybe amping it up a bit, but it feels like you either need to go like all in on raising the silliness of the vanity, or the amount. Well, mechanically they are upping the amount of resources, but like you say, the narratively there's actually a bit of maybe it doesn't ascend as much as it could. I'm also am I running out of time? Because it doesn't look.
When you hit monsters, you lose time. So I think it's always you die to time, but you either die to time running out by time, or you die to time running out by monsters.
I'm going to try and keep a closer eye on that, because I feel like that time, even though I was hitting a monster, I still had time. It's also a little bit difficult to tell when they're actually hitting me.
Yeah. There isn't an audio cue or anything, is there?
There is, but it kind of gets covered up by the fact that I'm mashing the attack button, which also has its own.
Yeah, okay. That was a jump there. You lost 20 seconds or something.
Okay, it actually does go down a lot faster than I initially realised. If I try and type a bit. Right, where are we? Techniques?
We didn't actually lock in pacing, but I think we're broadly saying that there's some ascending pacing, or maybe it's partway between flat pacing and some ascending pacing.
I think probably partway between the two.
Yeah.
Like there is. Oh, hey, we've got enough. Quick, let's get out here and see if we can see this final ending. Arguably, there is like a definite climax where we get horribly burned alive. Let's build a castle. Build a castle, and let's see what happens. You never listen to what we want or need, but I did exactly what you wanted. Scientists gave us the best advice.
Our sanity has dropped to 0.
Or their unrealistic demands drive you insane, so you go crazy and kill everyone. Okay. On that note, storytelling techniques. So we've got dialogue, we've got cutscenes.
Mm-hmm.
They convey the story. Yeah, I mean, successful use of more than one game writing technique.
I think we also pointed out some environmental storytelling as well at the beginning for seeing the damaged grooves and things then materializing in the story.
Yeah, I think maybe they could have done more with that. Of like, if we spec,
Yeah.
if we do everything as far as vanity projects go, everything sort of decays a lot more as we go. But overall, yeah, I think that's a pretty solid good. Let's have a look at what they
wondering
said.
about halfway up to excellent. It would need and mechanics support theme for the distinction between good and excellent there.
Oh, do the mechanics support the theme? I don't think they do. I think the story is very on theme, but the mechanics of a reaction-based clicker puzzle,
yeah,
doesn't really support the greed is good, push your luck kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly combined with the fact that if you make a mistake on any of those, you're locked into one branch of the story. So yeah, I think it hits a good. I don't think it goes higher than that though.
Okay. Before we get onto the feedback, do you want to try and poke for the hidden fourth ending? This is the 100% happiness ending. Specifically, if you talk to each NPC to fill out a to-do list, I'm reading off their notes here, fill in the NPC to-do list on the first day, but then don't go into the forest, go back to the scientist and go, hang on a minute, I think you should just leave, buddy. That is a secret fourth ending.
Okay. Interesting. Now, that's in because I would have had no idea that was there because they set up that initial choice as, well, the scientist has to be here. Start the first resource level. Oh, no, I've missed a villager somewhere. Right,
it says if you don't start the first resource level but walk back to the scientist, you can get a good ending. So you deliberately need the to-do list to be full, and then you need to send the scientist away. This is why I was surprised when you had the possibility of sending the scientist away, and then nothing happened, because I was expecting this ending to trigger. You have to specifically have talked to all of the NPCs and got the full to-do list before you speak to the scientist, and that will apparently let you do that.
Okay.
So now that you've spoken to everybody, now you might be able to send the scientist away.
Please leave. Oh, there he goes, packing his bags. Scientist leaves, the village remains peaceful. Okay.
You have found a good ending.
Yeah. I like what they were trying to do there, but I don't think it's worked as they expect. The fact that, the undisputably good ending is the one where you ignore the entire game. Like I say, I can see what they were trying to do, and I like the idea they had. I don't know if it fully came off the way they intended.
Yeah, I think I like the poetics of it more than you do. I don't like the fact that in order to get that ending, you have the thing where you have to speak to all of the people specifically in order and then go back and talk to the scientist, when it's also possible to talk to the scientist before and you don't get any feedback to tell you that that's what you're trying to do. We wouldn't have managed to discover that ending without the notes here, but...
Okie doke. So let's have a look at their feedback that they got. Initially, they wanted to make a survival game, but they weren't sure how to make that relate to the story. Some feedback was to have a timer for collecting resources, so that would make the game be a survival game. I'm not 100% sure that's accurate. I think having the resources tick down would make it a survival. I guess the timer kind of does it, but it feels like their implementation of it is a little bit... Like the fact that it keeps ticking down after we've left the dangerous bit, and the fact that... the fact that the monsters reduce your time rather than having an additional health stat kind of works, right? Tying those together is kind of nice. Yeah. But it's still...
It kind of works. The thing that maybe is a bit surprising to me is that as a survival game, what you'd probably expect is that you're constantly going back and forth to the forest.
Yeah.
Like, you've got, 5 minutes or something, but it's you go to the forest, you get some trees, you build a thing. You go back to the forest again, get some stuff, you build a thing. And the thing about the survival would then be the more time you spend in the forest, the more resources you can accumulate, but the more danger you're in. The fact that it's sort of, you have these distinct phases where you do the forest and you basically do all of it, and then there's no reason to go back to the forest in the timer, means that survival mechanic isn't actually doing the thing that it would usually do in a survival game.
So what else have they got? They also had added a sanity bar because they wanted the player to go insane in one ending. or in one of the games, and having a sanity bar emphasizes that the player is going insane. That bit I'm not sure about.
Well, that's an information design thing, right? If you've already decided you're going to have them go insane, just going insane out of the blue feels really bad. Going insane after you've been told sanity is a thing we're tracking feels less bad than that, but it still feels a little bit
arbitrary. And honestly, you're right about it appearing out of the blue is bad, but the fact that we constantly have to talk to all these ungrateful villagers, I don't think it would have been out of the blue if it had just happened at the end, because it's not like it has an impact elsewhere in the game, right? It's just a case of in the final cutscene it says you went insane, and I was ready to kill all of these villagers myself by the time we got to that point.
I guess what's maybe surprising is that the sanity doesn't steadily tick down. Like, it's not every time you speak to someone your sanity goes down. It seems to be specifically in 3 instances, which is the consequence of building. Whereas you were finding that your sanity was going down when you were talking to the villagers rather than when you were building stuff.
Yeah, which is sort of what I mentioned earlier. Like, it feels like they serve as just a flag for which branch you're on, rather than something that's actually ticking down as a result of your actions. But so they then changed the story based on some feedback that they only had a limited amount of time to get it, and they didn't want each branch to be too long. I think that's reasonable. We've played it through and we've seen all of the branches, even the secret branch, so that's pretty good. They decided to use happiness and sanity to affect the difficulty, because they wanted story choices to affect gameplay. Again, we've already talked about how maybe they could have done that in a better way, but equally, if they hadn't have done it at all, the game would have been worse for it, or certainly as a piece of coursework, it would have been worse for it.
Yeah, they were absolutely missing something on the mark scheme. The feedback said you're missing something on the mark scheme, and they changed something so that it was now covering something on the mark scheme, even if the narrative didn't support it directly.
And lastly, they were asked to think about their core dynamic, and because they were survival, they didn't want you to be forced to kill the monsters, so they let you sort of avoid and run away from them, and made it so that the enemies don't sort of chase you down all the way through the level. And that I think actually had definitely improved the gameplay segment of it. I don't know if it's the key thing that would have emphasized that it was survival, but it did stop it, tipping into something like destruction. So overall, the based on the sort of feedback that they've talked about, they've got some.
Yeah, feedback has been addressed. I'm in the ballpark of having been somewhat successful. I don't think it's fully successful, and I wouldn't maybe go as low as limited success. It's either in the satisfactory or slightly around.
I would say it's probably between limited and somewhat.
Yeah.
Right, and we should move on to the next game.
Okay.
All right, and our next game is Forest Adventure.
Sounds promising. Let's look for. We have a forest. Let's go on an adventure.
We've got a nice little cutscene. This frog is actually called Bunny. I'm so glad you agreed to hang out today, Fox. How do you think we progress this cutscene? Because it's not left click. Let's space. Nope, not space. E. It's E! Haven't seen you in ages, but I don't blame you. University's a drag. The non-ECS lecturers don't give us a break. That's right, ECS lecturers are the best lecturers. Look over here, the flowers are in season. Did you know they bloom brighter when a person's trust is high? That's kind of neat. Getting sort of Undertale vibes, and I can't quite say why. These flowers are bright right now. I guess we really trust each other. Wait, I forgot something from home. Go on ahead, I'll catch up. Dun dun dun. Okay, there's a path. There's a glowing red box.
Mm-hmm. You know what? I quite like that way of moving.
Some guy.
Our way.
Are you off to the woods? Word is going around that something dangerous is in there. Here's a tip. Thorns may look dangerous, but for the right people, it actually gives you a boost.
Huh.
Interesting. Ooh.
Now, was that a lie and we shouldn't trust him? Or that was some useful game tip?
I kind of just want to say, yeah, that's fine. That was reckless. Don't run off. I really neglect you. No, you're fine. This path looks pretty strange. I'm bad at now. I might just fall in a hole. Alright, we'll help out. We'll help out the bunny. Place an arrow with your arrow keys. Ah, okay. Oh, okay. Dun, 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 dun. So what we can do is we can go. Oh, can I? There we go. Oh, thorns. We don't want you to go down there, so we'll send you.
Do we have to break the thorns ourselves? Or...
Thorns seem fine. So let's send. Oh, they just slow us down a bit. Okay, so this is not how I was expecting this game to go, but I kind of like it. Little sort of.
It's a lasers bouncing off mirrors type game.
Kind of, although we're Wallace and Grommeting the mirrors, sort of like having to run and place them down as he's running. It seems like something in those thorns gave you a boost. Oh, hey, some guy wasn't lying. I think if I got it, I could get a boost mentally. Haha. Possible we should avoid the thorns. Wait, what? Okay. So don't go too far away from Bunny. Oh, Bunny is setting off. Now, the fact that Bunny is moving, and the fact that we have to stay close to them, makes this quite difficult. Because we've got to anticipate...
I was wondering about the zoom level of the camera. It's really nice that we get to preview the whole level, because if we didn't, we'd have no idea at all where we were trying to achieve. But you do have to kind of memorize this layout, because the camera is zoomed in enough that you won't get to select in real time which path you're going down.
Yeah, it's also a little bit awkward to place an arrow on a particular tile at speed, although I think I'm getting the hang of it. So I think I can see what they're setting up with the thorns as well, in so much as thorns are good for us but bad for Bunny. So there's this dilemma of, ooh, you're going to be selfish and so on. Thank you for letting me get the boost instead, even if they were mental. Thanks for the company. I assume that's because we didn't go too far away from him.
Mm-hmm.
We should move forwards. So I'm going to hang around and wait for you to start moving, and then we'll try. But partly because, as you say, the camera angle being a bit awkward, and partly because it's a little bit of a conceptual non sequitur of thorns bad for them but good for me. Wait, back this way. Like it feels a little bit of a weird mechanic. Why do thorns give us a boost? What kind of boost do they give us? How does that boost help us? Okay, like as far as the actual gameplay goes, controls are a little bit clunky, the camera's a little bit difficult to manage, but overall, I quite like it as a, you know, it's a nice little novel mechanic that we haven't seen much of. There's also, I like the fact that the flowers are used as a sort of trust meter. Who gave all the items to you? Did we see any items?
I didn't spot any.
Maybe that's some cut content. A little bit of environmental storytelling, that the forest is getting darker and gloomier as we progress through it.
Mm-hmm.
So this does feel a bit like there's one choice here, and we're asked to make it repeatedly. So they could have asked us at the start, do you want to be nice to Bunny or mean to Bunny? And then they wouldn't have to just ask us constantly all the way throughout, because as with a lot of these games, you are going to want to go all one direction or all the other direction. There's rarely an occasion where you would want to switch from one to the other or try and maintain like a, you know, I'll be nice to him 50% of the time and mean to them 50% of the time.
Yes, there's sort of two things you can do, right? One is, if you have some sort of dialogue that keeps trying to drag you away from whichever your first choice was, you say, you know, can my NPCs tempt you to change your mind? Then you get several instances of the same decision. or the thing I mentioned in the previous game was, if you do have several decisions that are the same decision, make them bigger, make them more important every time. If the final one is a really big dramatic version of this same decision, then each of the ones before will feel like it's building up, right? And that'll support the pacing.
Oh, interesting. Sorry, I'm just having a look at their game notes as we talk. I'll come back to that. It's a little bit strange. Again, sort of maybe a bit of a what's the word? A bit of dissonance with what we've learned earlier. So Frog is saying, "Oh, you go ahead, and I'll catch you up," despite the fact that we just berated Bunny for leaving us by ourselves because it was reckless and dangerous. So now I'm like, but I don't want to go. I want to wait here with Bunny. But okay, I think we've got to go look at the flowers first. The flower flows very bright in front of you. Is that meant to be glows? You
Maybe.
can sense it's happy and wants you to stay more. This flower, also happy, wants us to stay. What if we go a little bit further? Ooh, we got a blip. Oh, we're somewhere else now.
They've loaded a new scene.
Why are we deep in this forest anyway? Why can't we just hang out? I feel tired. Blah 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 blah. Blah. Bunny should be able to. Bunny should have more faith in himself. Bunny should have more faith in himself. Bunny's the brave one. He just doesn't realize it. He'll navigate on his own at some point when he's ready. Ooh, wow, that was fast. Fox, we need to run. Dun dun dun, there is a lion.
Ooh. Now, which out of a bunny or a fox is more tasty?
Which is faster. We don't need to outrun the lion, just need to Okay, so now we've got to very quickly navigate Bunny through this maze with something chasing us. So, definite upping of stakes, right?
Mm-hmm.
We'll put that there. There. So as I'm trying... This is a terrible idea, but as I'm trying to solve this puzzle, I'm also going to have a quick chat about something in their game notes, because one of the first things they mentioned is there are a number of things being tracked. Now, I assumed it was just going to be, oh, you've got a trust meter of how much does Bunny like you. But no, they say they're tracking trust, closeness, selfishness, dependency, and hesitance.
Yeah. So this could be quite a complex story engine if all of those things do meaningfully affect the way the game progresses.
Now, I'm not quite sure what those things actually are or how we're mechanically dealing with them. That lion, I do like the fact that they've set up the course, for lack of a better word, the level, so that you can pretty much... Like, there's a bunch of corners where you can see the lion out of the corner of your eye, hot on your heels. That's kind of nice. That helps drive the tension as well.
Yes.
Bunny, where are you? Dun dun dun. We're in a dead end. We must have accidentally separated. Again, maybe a bit of a conceptual non sequitur, or just a bit of dissonance with what we saw. We didn't get separated from Bunny. We were with him the whole time. We made sure to be.
Yeah, you were actively trying to stay together.
It's the cutscene avatar versus player avatar dynamic. It's a shame. I would really like Bunny meat more than a fox meat. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. There's the answer to who's tastier.
I'm pretty sure Bunny will come back to find me. I can come up with two options. I'm more inclined to one of them. Sacrifice Bunny so that I'm guaranteed to escape. I will trick the lion so that Bunny can be safe. Dun, dun, dun. So I can already see that if we'd been mean to Bunny, he would not come back to help us, and we would probably be doomed. But I think we've been nice enough to him that hopefully we'll get this. I don't know why you're agreeing to this, lion, but... Ooh. Okay. First one to the finish line wins. If there are any thorns, I could get a boost. Oh, Bunny's here. Oh, sorry, Bunny's not here. Definitely not a bunny. I laid out some arrows for you to follow. They're shortcuts. Oh, that's kind of nice. I like that as a little inversion or bookending of...
Poetic.
Yeah, we laid out arrows for Bunny, now Bunny's going to lay out arrows for us. That's kind of nice. I like that. Ooh, that lion's pretty fast. Good thing we had those shortcuts. Now I wonder. Okay, we did seem to get a boost through the thorns.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why we're getting a boost from thorns, but I'll take it.
And maybe we just don't know enough about foxes' biology.
Yeah, I guess I'm not a fox scientist. It's true. Oh, that was not the correct way.
Now there's in the middle of what we're
there.
in for.
So the fact that the goal is a piece of grass on a piece of grass, don't love it, but let's try.
Yeah,
Again.
it was consistent across levels, but it just wasn't bright enough or in your face enough to for us to notice it.
Yeah, it didn't really pop on the green background. But, okay, let's sneak around this way.
So one interesting thing I mentioned that the camera seemed a bit zoomed in. Well, given that the end of the game involves you relying on shortcuts that would be obvious if the camera was more zoomed out, it may well be an intentional choice to keep the camera zoomed in because it forces you to rely on these shortcuts at least a little bit.
But it also means that, like this shortcut, it's not obvious after you've come out of the shortcut which way you're meant to go, and you might end up going backwards instead.
I think perhaps this spiral should have spiraled clockwise instead of anti-clockwise or something. But...
Ah, there's an ending. Da-da. Right, let's see this ending, and then we'll see if we can get to the take a look at the marks criteria. I'm enjoying the music as well. We got the trustworthy ending. Fox and Bunny's bond strengthened, even though it wasn't easy. I'm just going to quickly skip over to the game notes and just count how many endings they've got.
4, because I've also got them up. We've got trustworthy, which was the last of the 4, achieved for being able to have a high overall trust score and deal with the lion.
And the big thing that branches them of, do we have high trust or low trust? And then the second one is, do we choose to sacrifice or deal? So that's sort of as we expected. Dialogue changes depending on dependency, trust, and selfishness. If closeness is low, you can't even make a promise. So let's quickly just have a look at what affects those stats. Because it doesn't look like, I'm not sure, they say things like if the hesitance meter is high, Bunny is slowed down, but it doesn't say what is affecting the hesitance meter.
Yeah, so I think closeness is literally just a measure of how close you are to the bunny, right? Like the further away you are on the level.
That one is pretty directly hinted at. They say
that one makes sense.
Don't go too far away. And that's fine. Selfishness then, I guess, is have you sent them through the thorns? That kind of makes sense. Yeah. I don't know what dependency and hesitance are.
Yeah. There are the narrative choices about we should tell Bunny that they can do it by themselves. That would imply
is that
dependency.
Oh, sorry, here we go. Dependency is increased depending on how many arrows you put. Selfishness is increased if you go boost from thorns. Closeness is depending on how long you're close with Bunny. Trust determined by how many times Bunny bumps into a wall. Oh, so if you bump him into a wall, that's bad?
Okay.
Still, I still can't see if they've mentioned hesitancy. But alright, we've got an idea of what the other stats are. So, before we get too deep into that, let's start talking about the overall quality, and the first thing of that is the presentation. So, how does it look? How does it sound? How well does it convey information? Now, look is great. Maybe, I guess that's information design as well. I was going to say that, the ending sprite of where we're running for maybe could be a bit clearer, but otherwise it's all kind of nice and clear. Like they've chosen a new font, they've highlighted things that are what we've got selected. They highlight the area where we can lay down an arrow. The mean fox ending. And audio-wise, we've got some sound effects. We've got some sound effects and music. Sorry, I'm too busy trying to solve this puzzle and getting all distracted.
Yeah, I like your big conveyor belt of arrows there. We can test the thing about dependency is going to be really high because you've put loads of arrows out.
Exactly. And that sort of brings us on to... Can I change the direction of arrows? We can. Be selfish as well. So some of the, information design wise, some of these things are hinted at. Some of them are not. Or I guess they kind of are. But it's difficult to know what state they're in. So there's the trust. I feel like, those trust flowers that they have at the beginning and the end, if they had one of those per level so you could see it blooming or wilting, would give you a... It's interesting that they set that up as, look, this flower blooms really brightly when two people trust each other, and then we don't see it again for the rest of the game. As far as information design goes... There we go. These, a little selfish about it as well. The fact that the thorns give us a boost is also a little bit weird, because what reason is there to go fast? It's more of a puzzle game than it is a race until the end.
It only matters at the end, right? Because presumably we're always having a race with the lion at the end.
Yeah, but we're not in danger of putting the frog through them at that point.
Yeah.
Also, the fact that closeness and dependency being separate measures is kind of interesting. I know it's based on how physically close you are and how many arrows you put down, but they feel like they should probably be the same stat in a way.
So that's the interesting thing. 5 stats here gives them
we do
lots of potential to do lots of complicated things. We're asking for a small game prototype, so I'm surprised that they have chosen to track 5 different things. It just seems like 2 or 3 would still evidence everything that they were trying to show. I don't necessarily think it's a downside, but I think it's sort of not utilized fully.
Also, I have just realized that we actually do see these flowers again. We see them halfway through. So this one glows softly, so not brightly. You can sense it's content. I thought I'd been trying to be really mean. So I'm surprised these flowers aren't horribly wilted, but okay. So we do get a sense of what some of those values are partway through as well, not just at the end. So that's something. So before we get too bogged down in everything else, presentation. I like these. I like the visuals. I like the audio. I think the information design is mostly good. It feels like we're maybe between professional and impactful here.
I was going to say the exact same thing. I think that the audio and the visuals are complete, effective, and appealing, which would be the excellent level, and we've got a few nitpicks about the information design that drops it slightly down.
Right, mechanics and controls. So the mechanics are kind of interesting. The fact that it's sort of more it's a puzzly game about leading the fox through, leading the bunny through the forest. Kind of works quite well. We'll talk about this when we get to pacing, but the fact that it starts off just leading him through some levels, and then it's leading him through some levels at speed because there's a lion after them, that's kind of a nice raising of the stakes as well. Controls wise, it's mostly fine, because it's all grid based. It's the way the tile you're selecting kind of snaps back and forth, particularly when you're trying to place something on a corner, is a little bit awkward, but it's not really a problem, and I haven't noticed much in the way of bugs either. I guess my main criticism of it is they could have done more with this puzzle. The fact that and combined with, like you say, the fact that the camera is very zoomed in, so it's actually quite difficult to get really far ahead of Bunny in the thing, which kind of ties you to always get a quite high closeness value, it feels like. And similarly, there's no real reason for you to be constantly spamming down arrows when you only need them when you want him to change direction. And it's not like, I don't know, maybe that's part, like maybe the fact that you don't actually know where you're supposed to be going leads you to constantly spam out arrows, but it feels like there's like a bit of a disconnect between some of the values they're tracking and the way they have designed the levels and the way that you use those mechanics to navigate them.
For me, the thing is that I think several of these things they're tracking, like the hesitance, I think was the how many times you run into the wall and so on. They're things that you never really interact with because there's nothing else to do. The only thing you do is you walk in front of Bunny. So, like, you're always going to be tracing a path. Either it's the one through the thorns or the one that's not through the thorns. For me, the idea that Bunny bonking its head on the wall and therefore stopping temporarily is a thing that can happen makes me think that maybe their original design also had some secondary thing you were supposed to be accomplishing, and you're actually therefore spending some of your time shepherding Bunny and some of your time also, I don't know, picking flowers or something else. And the thing that would be greedy there is that you leave Bunny sitting against a wall whilst you go and harvest all the other things that you want for selfish reasons, and then you come back to tidy up Bunny afterwards. But what we've got here, there's no reason to ever let Bunny bonk its head.
Yeah, there was that line of dialogue about "thank you for giving me all the items." So maybe you're right. Maybe that was the original intention. As it is, I would say it's reasonably complex. Although I'm not sure there's multiple mechanics. There's one sort of really key mechanic, which is laying down the arrows, but beyond that, there's not a lot else. The controls are mostly fine. I'm umming and ahhing between. Do you think this is between a satisfactory and a good, or do you think this reaches the good as it is?
Yeah, I think it is close to getting that reasonable complexity with multiple mechanics. The fact that we do have the same mechanics used twice, which is you're putting arrows down in the first part of the game, and then arrows are put down for you to follow in the second part of the game, I think would put it up to that good level.
You know what? Yeah, I think that what's the word? The fact that shows back up again, but from a different perspective, actually is quite nice. So yeah, all right. I think I still think there's a lot more that they could have done with that mechanic in terms of the level design and setting things up nicely. But you're right. I think what they've got is definitely a good.
How about the story engine then?
So, game affecting the story. Well, the flowers definitely seem smaller than they were.
Oh, yeah. Are these... I don't know if that's a visual bug or whether or not this is something to do with the potential items if you're picking flowers before or something.
No, I think that's symbolizing that we have quite low trust.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So game world to story, we've already talked about. They're tracking a number of different ways that you play the game. How do they actually impact the story? Because it says in their diagram that there's one particular sort of choice where it changes the dialogue a bit or prevents you from making a particular promise. Blah, blah, blah.
If you've got low closeness, there's some the promise you can't make. It's the one that you were saying.
The flowers change based on your trust. Dialogue of Bunny changes based on the puzzles. The dialogue of Fox changes before the race, depending on the trust. Okay, so really, it affects one main branch of the story, which is high trust or low trust, and the others affect the bits of dialogue here and there. So it doesn't have a massive impact on the overall story, but it changes the flavor of some of the dialogue, which is. Which I think is reasonable. So again, if we take a look at the mark scheme, So satisfactory is some examples of where the game world impacts the story. A good would be a number of examples where it's impacting it in important ways. And I don't know if it quite hits the fact that they're important.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Interestingly, in their notes, they do say the environment and music change depending on difficulty of gameplay. Have you spotted that?
Well, the the forest sprites change, the music changes per level. So that's kind of nice, but I don't think that's I think that's them changing based on the level rather than the choices I'm making in gameplay, I think.
Right. Okay. It's not like if the lion gets close to you, suddenly the music speeds up or something.
Not that I've noticed, although that would be nice. This is not super difficult, but it's interesting that we get a different bit of gameplay. And if I... Oh no! We tried to betray the bunny, but the bunny betrayed us. That's interesting. We can only betray him if he trusts us. If he doesn't trust us, we can never betray him. Yikes. I mean, we deserved it. Okay. Ooh, that's kind of interesting. Did we settle on where we were putting game to story?
I don't think we got an exact. Where were we?
So I think it definitely hits a satisfactory. Do we think it's maybe between a satisfactory and a good, or is it a solid and respectable satisfactory?
I think it probably goes halfway between for me.
I think you're probably right. I'm umming and ahhing about the importance of the impact, but I think particularly because it's not just a binary on or off, the fact that they're tracking 5 different things about the way the player is playing, I think that makes that a much more interesting version of the story engine. I think, as you say, they maybe could have done more with it, but I think it. Actually, you know what? Looking at the excellent would be consistent interplay between game and story. I'm inclined to put it at good because there is that. It is constantly looking at how you beat the levels rather than just arbitrary thresholds.
Yeah.
So it maybe doesn't have actually that much of an important impact on the story, but I think the things that they are tracking and the way that they are doing it warrants them getting a good for that.
Mm-hmm. And it is nice that their end screens are detailed enough that it makes it clear, even from playing the game, that they are tracking things and they were specific on what kinds of things were causing those endings.
Yeah, so story to game. That is, I guess, a bit more obvious, based on our dialogue choices, we either play one final level or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else? Hesitance meter is high, bunny is slowed down. Again, not sure what hesitance meter is changed by, perhaps some dialogue choices. Depending on the trust meter, level 2 will have a shortcut or not. Trust and dependency meter, you'll either need to guide the bunny or not when he's being chased by the lion. Oh yeah, because he leaves. Depending on whether you choose to sacrifice the bunny or not, the gameplay changes to either guiding the bunny or racing with the lion. Racing against the lion, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah. So there's definitely a number of ways that it impacts the gameplay, both in terms of changing the final level, changing some stats like the speed of the characters, and also, as we sort of commented earlier, the fact that we get the nice bookending of the use of the arrows with Bunny showing us some shortcuts. So overall, I think there's actually quite a few ways that it's impacting it there.
And we obviously still have the consistent interplay, which would be for the excellent category. Do we have the importance, which was what we were
I think as far as that goes, you actually get more important changes to this game than you do the story. So I think that probably hits the excellent.
Yeah.
Richness of well, yeah. I think it hit the excellent. I'm maybe less convinced that it's the consistent interplay, because it seems to be things like it's more flag based on some of the dialogues, but I think overall, like you say, the impacts it has are consistent. Right, what about agency?
Yeah, so how many choices do we have and how interesting are they?
So we are given a number of choices, but like a lot of these sort of, I don't want to call it a binary moral choice system, but the one where it's like, are you going to be nice or are you going to be nasty? It really reduces to just one choice of, are you going to be nice or nasty? There's no real reason for a player to change their mind halfway through. But that said, overall it's an interesting choice. It's a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. That you can have this moral dilemma where, do you sacrifice your friend to save your own skin? And gameplay wise, it maybe doesn't have an enormous impact because you're doing similar levels, but narrative wise, getting the player to tangle with questions of morality, that's an easy way to get a relatively interesting choice.
Yeah, so we absolutely have interesting choices generally. Do we have enough of them for us to call it a number of interesting choices? And above that, we would be saying number of interesting choices and attempts to manage player agency.
Yeah, that bit I'm not sure about. I would almost say there are attempts to manage players' agency, but as far as the number of interesting choices goes, I think really, if you look at it, it kind of reduces to one interesting choice. But I think that evens out to a solid satisfactory.
Mm-hmm.
What about pacing? So we have, again, mechanically we've got some ascendant pacing. I don't think it actually ramps up as much as it could. And again, I think they could have made some more interesting choices in their level design and the complexity of their level and stuff. But they were doing this in a short period, and it's a small prototype, so that's not really a problem. Storytelling wise, we definitely get some ascendant pacing, which is highlighted through the dialogue, but also the way that the levels change. So we go from nice forest to scary forest to, oh my god, there's a lion behind us. So the stakes definitely ramp up in that sense. And there is kind of a dramatic final peak where you're running away from the lion, and then you're either trying to commit the ultimate betrayal, or you're running away from the lion even faster.
Yeah, so certainly we've got some ascending pacing or better. Ascending pacing with a clear final peak. I think we probably do have that clear final peak. We've got two different final peaks depending on which route we go down. Ascending for the excellent level would need ascending pacing with more than one peak, i.e. intermediate peaks as we go through, and then relaxations back.
Yeah, which I don't feel like they have quite nailed. Like, there are a few moments of calm, I guess, between the levels, but I think mostly it's the thing they've nailed is that the clear final peak. So I think we hit the good there.
I agree.
As far as techniques go, obviously we have dialogue. We also have a decent chunk of cutscenes.
Yep, that was what I was expecting you to say. At the start of every level, they do a cutscene showing you the level. There was also some cutscenes during the sort of setup bit where they showed you the NPCs or whatever.
Like they take some control away from us to show us something. Like that's what we consider a cutscene for this little prototype. We're not expecting fully rendered FMV or anything like that. So, sounds like, well, how do they use the cutscenes to tell the story? Certainly the overview of the level doesn't. But there are other elements where they do use it to showcase something like, Frog suddenly running away. So I think we can say that is successful use of more than one game writing technique.
Mm-hmm. Do we think we have specifically the mechanic support theme element to go
Actually,
above that?
Actually, you know what? I think they do, right? This is all about are we friendlily? Are we being a good friend and guiding them around? Even tracking things like are we sticking close to them or are we dashing ahead? All of the mechanics that they're tracking that we talked about so nicely in the game to story are also very on brand for the theme of the story that they are trying to tell. So actually, yes, I do think that probably hits the excellent, which is really nice to see.
Yeah. Brilliant.
And last but by no means least, feedback. So this is something I'm going to have to also keep tabbing out on.
I can read out for you. The main feedback was to consider how the game world affects the story. The only feature we had that supported this at the time was whether or not we successfully captured the bunny. That impacted the ending. We decided to add thorns in the puzzle where the player can choose whether to let the bunny through or not. They've then made their flowchart a bit bigger with some more decisions based on whether those thorns are included. Then they were told make sure their choices are meaningful and interesting.
The thorns I still have mixed feelings about because they don't really make sense within the story. I'm glad that they explain them, but it doesn't make sense that one person gets a boost from thorns and one person gets horribly cut up by thorns. But okay, yeah, as far as what I was saying about before, of it would be nice if they'd made the levels like a bit more complex. The thorns are definitely one way of attempting to do that. So most of their feedback was talking about also about the meaningfulness of the choices. So swapping the trust meter with buffs to help in the gameplay. Following this, we decided to make the thorn path more appealing to the player. Okay, so again, I can see mechanically why they've done it. I think it was maybe a bit of a it doesn't integrate very well with the fiction of the world that they are creating. But I can see why they've done it from a sort of mechanical level. Story to gameplay could have been more evident. So if they've got high trust, then they help in a later. Okay, so again, I think that had a really good impact on their game. But it's very much a case of, well, they've taken the suggestion they were given and just done exactly that. So they haven't hugely built on it, but what they have done has been very successful.
Yeah, they don't get the interpreted and addressed for the excellent level, but they do get the feedback has been addressed and changes have been successful, which is a good level.
Excellent. Oh, sorry. Good. Right. Right, yeah, there's not a lot else to say for this one, so that's all for this game. I really like the way that they have tried to really integrate the theme into the mechanics. I think that has been a solid foundation for building this. Again, I would quite like to see them continue working on this and maybe sort of develop the puzzles of the level a little bit more too.
Yeah, I'd be interested. The bit of dialogue that seemed to indicate there were some collectible items might be an interesting thing to see what a new version with those pushing your time, some of it is helping Bunny and some of it is helping yourself, would be an interesting thing to see.
All right, so that's our last game for this batch. We will see you again very soon for another episode.